What's going on, everyone? It's the Fantasy Football Almanac, back at it with another fantasy football video. Today we are going to be going over the lessons learned from the second half of the games of Week 2. If you guys want to check out the first half, it will be somewhere over here. You just go click that video and you will see all the lessons learned from the first half of the Week 2 games. But anyways, before we get into it, if you guys could, please go down, give this video a like, give this video a comment. I am answering any comment, whether it be trade questions, buy low questions, anything. I am more than happy to help. And subscribe to the channel, turn that notification bell on. With that out of the way, let's hop right into our first matchup. So the 49ers versus the Seahawks, we learned a few things. For one, rest in peace, Tyrion Davis-Price. Rest in peace, Trey Lance. It is so sad. Trey Lance, with an injury to his ankle that's going to derail the rest of his season, actually devastating. And then Ty Davis-Price out with the high ankle sprain. He was getting a fair amount of carries, but now this is Jeff Wilson's job to lose. And so my lesson here is whoever is going to be starting for the 49ers is viable for fantasy. Yes, Jeff Wilson did not have a touchdown. Yes, he only had 11 points, but he still put up 18 carries for 84 yards, 2 receptions for another 19 yards. So this guy, on his normal week, will be a mid to high running back 2, because you figure with that type of volume in this type of offense, he should be having touchdowns pretty frequently. Now that we have Jimmy G back, they are going to be running the ball a lot more. So I think Jeff Wilson Jr. was a phenomenal waiver wire pickup. I mean, it looks even better after this week. And then I want to talk about the Seahawks real quick. I think this game proved that Geno Smith was a fluke in Week 1. I mean, Geno Smith looked amazing Week 1. This Sunday, he looked absolutely horrendous. I mean, it was raining, yes, but he looked really, really bad out there. Not even having a touchdown, going under 200 yards and throwing an interception. I think fluke Geno is just about done, but that's it for this game. Now, let's move on to the Falcons versus the Rams. I have a few takeaways for this game, but my primary one is that Drake London is an absolute monster. Going out, 8 receptions on 12 targets, 486 yards and a touchdown and a 2-point conversion, putting up 20 fantasy points in his second NFL game. He just looks to be absolutely one of the best players coming out of this draft class, and it's only Week 2. Kyle Pitts, furthermore, was limited to 3 targets, and no one else in this offense had any production throughout the day. My other takeaway is we might have overhyped Kyle Pitts. I mean, me personally, I was very, very rarely investing into Kyle Pitts. I loved the talent. I really did. But at the same time, it was concerning seeing the situation he was in, seeing Drake London. I was buying Drake London, and I was not buying Kyle Pitts. Now we see that Kyle Pitts will be a very boom or bust player. I mean, whether he puts up 20 points or 2, it'll be like a Mike Williams type situation at your tight end spot. But the problem is, it's going to be Mike Williams few and far between because the team is so bad. So I'm a little bit concerned with Kyle Pitts. But moving on to the Rams side, we did see Cam Akers involved a lot more. 15 carries to Darrel Henderson's 10. And we did see Allen Robinson almost get 2 touchdowns. He did end with 1, 13 points, salvaged his day. But we did see Allen Robinson a lot more involved, and that is good. That's exactly what we want to see from this Rams team. Next up, we got the Bengals versus the Cowboys. The main thing I want to talk about from this game is the fact that Joe Mixon was still utilized heavily, despite the fact that they were down most of the game. It was a very negative game script, but Joe Mixon was still able to get 19 carries. Yes, it was only for 57 yards, which is 3 yards a carry, but he also had 3 receptions, 4 targets for another 26 yards. He has not gotten into the end zone yet, which has hurt his overall fantasy ceiling thus far. But again, this Bengals team should look to be better. It should be better than they were the first 2 games. They also have a layup against the Jets next week, so I am really not concerned. And my second takeaway is that Cooper Rush, while he's not a good quarterback, well, he's not a great quarterback, he is at least serviceable and can uphold fantasy options, whether that be CeeDee Lamb, whether that be Noah Brown, whether that be Michael Gallup when he gets back, or Tony Pollard. He's no Dak. He's no Dak most certainly, but he will be able to sustain decent fantasy performances for people in this lineup. The next game I want to talk about is the Texans versus the Broncos. My main takeaway from this game is that Nathaniel Hackett is probably the worst coach in the league. I thought it was Matt Rule for a while. Matt Rule had the crown. Hackett somehow snatched it even well winning. That's how bad this guy is. I mean, week 1 blows it to the Seahawks. Week 2 puts up 16 points against the Houston Texans, wins by 1 touchdown. I mean, just looked awful. Russell Wilson, uncharacteristically, 14 of 31. And the only player with fantasy relevance on the Broncos side was Courtland Sutton. From the Texans side, I'd like to admit that I was a little bit wrong on Dameon Pierce. I still don't want to say I was wrong because, I mean, realistically, he's the running back for the Texans, which is not going to be that productive of a role. But now he comes out, he gets 15 carries for 69 yards, not involved in the receiving game. That is Rex Burkhead. But Rex Burkhead was held without a carry. It was all Dameon Pierce, which is exactly what you want to see for the future. Well, the ceiling is not high. I think the floor is very safe here with Dameon Pierce. And that's really what this game showed me. Well, he will not be great for fantasy. He can finish as a stable running back 25. And that's really all you need from him. Depending on where you drafted him, there's some places where he was drafted way too high, but depending on where you drafted him, that's really all you need from him. Before I touch on our next game, if you guys could, please just go down, give a like, give a comment. I am responding to any fantasy football related questions that anyone has, whether it be trade candidates, buy low, sell high, start sits, anything. I am more than happy to talk to anyone about anything fantasy football related and subscribe to the channel. Thank you guys so much. It does mean the world to me. Let's get back to the next matchup here. So next game I want to talk about is the Cardinals versus the Raiders, and wow, this game was fun to watch. I mean, it was just absolutely crazy. First of all, the Cardinals mounted a crazy 20-point comeback. I don't think anyone was expecting it. The Cardinals looked awful in the first half, but Kyler somehow clawed them back, and they ended up winning the game. But my main takeaways from this game are both about the Cardinals. And that is that now that James Conner potentially is going down with an injury, this does look to be a split backfield. Both Eno Benjamin and Darrel Williams getting 8 carries, so no one really took the throne. If I had to prefer one, I would prefer Darrel Williams just because he does have more of a pass-catching role. And he did score the touchdown, meaning he probably is going to be the touchdown back if James Conner misses time. And then the only takeaway is that the Cardinals are the best worst team in the NFL, or the worst best team, whatever you want to say. I mean, they look so bad and so good. There is no in between. There's never a time where they're going to score 14, 17 points. They're either putting up 30 or they're putting up 0. There's no in between. They're either insane or terrible, which is annoying for fantasy, especially in people like Marquise Brown, especially for James Conner, for Zach Ertz, potentially for DeAndre Hopkins when he comes back. This offense is really confusing. I don't know what to say. But now let's move on to our next matchup here. So my lesson from the Bears-Packers game is pretty much just not to worry about Monty. People were very worried about Monty. People were worried about Khalil Herbert coming in and stealing volume. That does not look to be the case anymore. 4 carries and 1 reception, 5 total touches. Whereas David Montgomery was able to have 15 carries for 122 yards. He looked really, really good out there. And to add on to that, he also had 2 receptions on 2 targets. So he does look to be the primary back here. So he puts up 15 fantasy points without a touchdown. If he does get the touchdown in this game, which there won't be very many touchdowns going around in this Bears offense, but when he does get touchdowns, he will be at least a pretty stable RB2. Compared to Khalil Herbert, who's not even startable, pretty much just a handcuff, unless David Montgomery gets hurt. If David Montgomery gets hurt, Khalil Herbert ascends to pretty much where David Montgomery is as a player, maybe even a little bit better, because we've seen Khalil Herbert absolutely beast in the games he's played, but either way, none of these players are really all going to be that insane, but they're going to be stable pieces for your running back situation. That's really what matters with David Montgomery. That's pretty much what you hope for, and that's what you're getting. Especially in best ball, I mean, he was going at a massive discount, so it's good to see that he is doing well. My main takeaway from the Bills-Titans game is that the Bills' defense is absolutely next level. I mean, this could be a 2020 Patriots defense. This could be one of the best defenses we've seen for fantasy football and just regularly in a long time. So far throughout the season, they have 5 interceptions, 9 sacks, and have put up 17 fantasy points and 19 fantasy points in each of the 2 games that they played. I am really concerned the Bills defense looks to be a unit. They look to be a tank this year. I'm concerned. I wish I had drafted them in some of my main leagues. I was kind of going with the defense late, stream a defense strategy, especially because they were playing the Rams week 1, but they just look to be different. And the only other takeaway I have is you might want to be a little bit concerned about Derrick Henry now. I'm not panicking on him by any means, but this offensive line for the Titans looked really, really bad in week 1 and week 2. And Derrick Henry rushing for a little less than 2 yards a carry. The touchdown basically salvaged this week. If he didn't have that touchdown, oh my God, you would be very, very angry as a Derrick Henry owner, alongside Ryan Tannehill putting up less than a fantasy point. So I think this offense is something you really, really want to stay away from. Not very many players I would even really want. I would maybe try and trade low on Derrick Henry, but I would have to be trading pretty low. There are a lot of guys that I prefer over Derrick Henry right now. DeAndre Swift comes to mind. I'd much rather have Saquon Barkley. I'd much rather have Austin Eckler. I would probably even rather have Aaron Jones. I'm really concerned about Derrick Henry. But anyways, let's move on to our last game, the last game of the week here, the Minnesota Vikings versus the Philadelphia Eagles. My main takeaway from this game is the fact that Jalen Hurts is a top 5 quarterback. Now there's not even a debate. I mean, what he did in this game was absolutely insane. 33 fantasy points, which is already a very, very good showing. But he comes out, and people have been doubting him as a passer for a long time now. He's made some real strides. 26 for 31 with 333 yards. You cannot doubt this man as a passer any longer. That is absolutely insane. A.J. Brown looked to open up the offense. The offensive line looked stellar. And he comes out throwing 1 passing touchdown, his first of the season, which is crazy because he's a top 5 fantasy quarterback, but rushes for 2 more and rushes for another 57 yards. So my main takeaway from the Eagles side is that Jalen Hurts is a league breaker. And A.J. Brown, although he did not look great in this game, in terms of the fact that he did not get a lot of yards, he still looked really, really good just with the eyeball test, as he always does. And my only other takeaway is that Irv Smith should be a good bounce back candidate. I mean, 12 points. Yes, he did not do a whole lot from a yards perspective, but he had a 6-yard touchdown that just fell right in between his hands, and he lost it. I mean, that was just very, very sad for all Irv Smith owners, but I would go out there and get him, only 34% rostered. Anyways, guys, that is going to do it for me. That's a week 2 lessons breakdown for the NFL season. The second half of teams, I will be again putting the first half of games up somewhere over here. But anyways, if you guys enjoyed, please go down, leave a like, leave a comment. Again, I'm answering every single comment fantasy football related, so any questions you guys have, and subscribe to the channel. It would mean the world to me. Anyways, that is it from me. As always, I hope you guys have a good day, a good night, and a good life.